Hey, good morning, good afternoon, whatever the time is that you watch the Bernie Show here on STL Sports Central. I always like talking to y'all, coming up with some stuff. I'm heavy into the trade deadline stuff today and the importance of how the Cardinals are going to do coming out of the All-Star break, whether it be really, really good or really, really bad or maybe mediocre, right? I've always got strong opinions. I've been expressing strong sports opinions in St. Louis since the mid 1980s and without interruption since 1989. So you can find my videos and columns here at STL Sports Central. I'm a regular on KMOX Radio. I do the Cardinal Territory podcast, video cast with Katie Wu, and of course, long time now been doing Seeing Red podcast with Will Leach. But now it is time to just buckle up and get to the topic. The next couple of weeks are huge for the St. Louis Cardinals on a number of fronts. The Redbirds come out of the All-Star break and will play 13 games before the July 31 trade deadline. The schedule goes like this. I know you know it, but just to kind of underline it, 3 at Arizona this weekend, followed by 3 at Colorado the first 3 days of next week. And then after the 2 road series, the Cardinals return to Busch Stadium for 2 home series. They'll have 4 against the Padres, then close the homestand with 3 against the Marlins. And then at that point, after that final Marlins game, it's that's it. I mean, it's the trade deadline because that Thursday, July 31st, Major League Baseball has no game scheduled. So it's go time. And of course, teams can make trades before the actual July 31 deadline. So we'll see how it shakes out. But anyway, the way the Redbirds will fare over the next 13 games go a long way, I think, in shaping the outlook on a number of important issues. Number one, can the Cardinals stay close in the National League wildcard race? The Cardinals lost 8 out of their last 12 games before the All-Star break. That includes losing 3 of their last 4 series before the All-Star break, but somehow managed to stay within a game and a half of the number 3 wild card spot. Other teams have been letting the Cardinals hang around, but how long can you count on that lasting, right? For now, I'll leave the Brewers and Mets out of this, and that can change later as developments warrant. But those teams right now currently hold the number 1 and number 2 wild card spots, so I really don't see the point in talking about can the Cardinals catch the Brewers or the Mets or even the Cubs when the Cardinals still have to overtake the Giants and the Padres to get to the number 3 spot. Get to the number 3 spot and, play really good baseball. Then we can start talking about what's above the Cardinals, right? The Cardinals are 5th in the wild card pecking order right now. They're half a game behind the Giants, a game and a half in back of the Padres. And they got to look over their shoulder a little bit because the Cardinals are only 1 game ahead of the Reds in that hunt for the 3rd wildcard ticket. The Cardinals are fortunate because none of those three teams have zoomed ahead with any great force. A couple of them have perked up recently, but the bottom line is the Giants are 11-16 in their last 27. The Padres are 14-16 in their last 30. The Reds won 4 of their last 5 before the break, but they're 11-12 in their final 23. Now, some of you may say, and I understand, well, that's the point. Those teams aren't that good. So the Cardinals can do this. In theory, I agree with you, but that also would require the Cardinals to win and win and win and win, right? And the trends are not good along those lines. Even though the Cardinals exceeded expectations with their 51-46 record before the All-Star break, they continue to be pretty vulnerable in a lot of ways. They're 19-22 in their last 41 games. And all I'm trying to say here is this cannot go on. So the Cardinals go into the weekend, they'll be upbeat because they had the All-Star break, but it was a pretty frustrating time in the weeks before the All-Star break. And that trend cannot continue. It's about time for the Cardinals, instead of just saying, geez, the Giants lost. Oh, great. We're still there. Instead of that, wishing and hoping and praying, it's time for the Cardinals to stand up. And if they can't stand up and win, then sit down, right? Staying close just because the other teams are flopping around, that's not a strategy. It's charity. So the Cardinals have to win rather than keep drifting into deeper into mediocrity and then just wishing and wishing and wishing that everybody else stinks too. As I said, that ain't a strategy. Winning is the strategy. The series at Arizona is critical for the Diamondbacks. They're 5.5 games out of third wild card spot. If you look at it two ways, maybe if the Diamondbacks lose the series to the Cardinals, it's going to push them closer to the sellers category in the run up to the trade deadline. But if the Diamondbacks have a strong weekend, winning 2 or 3 games from the Cardinals or sweeping the Cardinals, they'll at least have some hope of staying in the race, and they'll try to continue to do that. Well, they'll also have more time before the deadline rolls around to kind of reassess. And should the Cardinals get swept in the desert, I'm not predicting it, but I'm just saying, should they lose the series or get swept in the desert, especially the sweep, it would be another knockdown. And the Cardinals cannot afford too many knockdowns, because if these knockdowns, and there have been a lot of them lately, if it continues, well, you know what comes after a series of knockdowns in any kind of title fight? Series of knockdowns leads to a knockout. So the Cardinals still have time to hit back, but as of Friday morning, their FanGraphs probability of making the postseason is 29%. It could be worse, yes. But the point is, it needs to get a lot better, and soon. If you look at the Padres, 47% chance of making the playoffs, according to FanGraphs. Giants right there too, with a postseason probability of 45%. And putting the standings aside, there is a lot more at stake besides the wild card pursuit and those standings. And I'm going to get into that in my next segment here on The Bernie Show. But first, I'd like to tell you about DraftKings and the Daily Pick 6 game, because if you think you know baseball, you got to put that intelligence to work and take a shot at winning big cash prizes through the Daily Pick 6 fantasy contest at DraftKings. In DraftKings Pick 6, you just focus on player stats. You select anywhere from 2 to 6 players. You choose whether the individual player will go higher or lower on a specific stat line set for his next game by DraftKings. Now, here's my example of the day. I try to always give you one. Cardinals are going to face Arizona's hard-throwing right-handed starting pitcher, Brandon Pfaadt, in Friday's game. He's been rocked for 17 home runs this season, and while many of those have come on the road, he has still given up 17 home runs this season. He's averaging 1.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings. That's a pretty fat rate. So overall, left-handed hitters have hit 10 home runs, and they have a big slugging percentage against Brandon Pfaadt this year. And the Cardinals, of course, have 3 left-handed bats that can take him deep. The line for Alec Burleson, Nolan Gorman, Brendan Donovan, all 3 of them, the line is 0.5 home runs for Friday's game. Well, they're going up against a pitcher for at least 5-6 innings who gives up a lot of home runs. So who's got the best chance? I would go with Gorman, a Phoenix area native who had 3 home runs in a series at Arizona when he was going good at 2023. And Gorman is going good again. He's been slugging 509 or so since May 26, with quite a few home runs. So he's got his confidence. He's back in the groove. And I think it's homer time against a pitcher that gives up a lot of homers. So let's give the home field advantage to Nolan Gorman, close to where he grew up, right? My choice would be to take the higher than 0.5 home runs for Gorman. You know what, though? I'd also take a look at Ivan Herrera. I know he's a right-handed hitter, but that doesn't matter. Ivan Herrera is back, and he is a very dangerous man. Pick 6 is that simple, just in terms of understanding how it works, and it's a lot of fun. So why not get in the game? This is your time, man. Second half is upon us. Take your best shot at winning some of that cash. Pick 6 available in most states, including Missouri, California, Texas, Georgia, and more. It is easy to get going. You just download the DraftKings app and you open an account. You choose a sport, you pick your players, and then you get going. New players at DraftKings, this is good. Get $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly with just a $5 entry. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use the code STL Sports. That's the code STL Sports for new customers to play $5 and get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Thanks for staying with me, and let's get back and jump into my second segment of today's Bernie Show. So what will the Cardinals look like 13 games from now? Depending on how they do, the results could shape their decision-making process at the trade deadline. And they'll take it right down to the wire, I would think, unless they do so poorly that there's nothing to think about. In the first 6 games of this stretch, the Cardinals really have no excuses for coming up short. I'm not saying they got to win, go 6-0, but the Diamondbacks are 3 games under 500 overall this season. They're also 20-23 at home. Then it's on to Colorado, good old Coors Field. The Cardinals will have a chance, even if they have a 1-2 weekend at Arizona, they have a chance to get well soon and in a hurry against an absolutely hideous Rockies team. Every time I see this or say this or read this, the Rockies are 22-74. They have a .229 winning percentage. Home field advantage? I don't think so. Visiting teams this season so far at Coors Field have won 36 of 46 games. The Rockies' futility is almost comical, but what happens if the Cardinals screw that up? Or if they screw up both series on the road over the next week? That alone, close to a week, that alone could move President of Baseball Operations John Mozeliak into settling on a course of action for the trade deadline. And, even if the Cardinals do okay against those first 2 teams, listen, the Padres won't be easy. And I know the Padres, I just got done telling you that they have a losing record or so over the last 30 games. I'm not saying they're a superpower, but there's a lot of talent on that team. And Mike Shildt, the Padres manager, would be very, very happy to, metaphorically speaking, push John Mozeliak and Ollie Marmol into a ditch and say, hey, try climbing out of that. And you can't sleep on an interesting Marlins team that'll be here right before the break. They've won 14 out of their last 20 games before the All-Star break, including 3 road series triumphs over the Giants, Padres, and Orioles. So if the Cardinals do really, really well against the Diamondbacks, Rockies, Padres, and Marlins, let's say 9-4. It doesn't have to be that. I'm just saying, let's say 9-4. Mozeliak presumably would be inclined to go into the buyer mode, but what would he buy and how aggressive would he be about buying it? I can't imagine seeing Mozeliak getting real aggressive in a way that would require the Cardinals shipping off a really good prospect or 2. I suppose Mo could do the buyer and the seller thing. That's what all the cool kids talk about all the time, as if no one else mentions that. You can do a buyer and seller thing in separate deals or even in one deal where you get something that will help you for the stretch run here. And yet, so you get something back there, or maybe you make a move where you get a little help now, but you also get a piece in a bigger deal or a 3-team deal or whatever that would set you up better for 2026. So Mozeliak, in theory, could deal from his surplus of left-handed hitters, especially Lars Nootbaar, I know he's hurt again. Yeah, I know. Perfect timing there, Newt. He could deal from his surplus of left-handed hitters or actually think hard about moving one of their coveted catching prospects because they're not all going to be able to play here. And then he can make some noise in other ways. I mean, you just never know, who he is going to get calls about. My friend Katie Wu, The Athletic, had an interesting quote recently from a National League front office executive, and they give those people anonymity so they'll speak freely. This person said the Cardinals are, quote, could be a, quote, linchpin at the trade deadline. And he or she added, because they have a lot of players teams are interested in. And see, that perked up my attention. I mean, if John Mozeliak really wants to get, if he really wants to kind of become the mad gambler or something, if he really wants to swing big, well, if the Cardinals stink and they're losing games, sell everybody. I don't mean literally everybody, but there's no reason to hold back, right? One question that's in the air for me is I wonder if Mozeliak would move Jordan Walker for the right price. I prefer to have Chaim Bloom make that decision, thank you, when the offseason rolls around, because it's going to be a really big decision. But even if the Cardinals are buyers, I'm strongly inclined to believe, and I could be wrong, but I do believe a trade or maybe two trades would be on the conservative side, with perhaps Mo getting some relief depth or a right-handed hitting outfielder. But he would do it at a relatively low cost, and the price would not leave any leftover damage by affecting the team's future beyond 2025. But if the Cardinals crash during these 13 games, that takes them to the trade deadline, and Mozeliak has an easy decision. It is such an easy decision. I don't think that he could screw it up. I'm going to pause while you all giggle at that. Okay, I'll count. All right, go ahead, giggle for what I just said, that he can't screw it up. I'll give you 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Yeah. How's that for a vote of confidence? I can hear some of you now. Come on, Bernie. Of course Mo's going to screw it up. Yeah, you're probably right. At least it's more possible than I'm saying. If the Cardinals don't make any real headway or they fall down before July 31st, then that should lead to some obvious decisions. You got 3 relievers are tradable, and actually it's 4, and I'll save the 4th one for last. You got Ryan Helsley, Phil Maton, and Steven Matz. All 3 are pending free agents. They can walk after the year, but they still have good value for a team that is desperate or very anxious to get some quality relief help to push not only their their drive to make the playoffs, but once they get in the playoffs. In other words, I'm talking about teams that might already pretty much have a playoff spot locked up. But these guys, they could view Ryan Helsley or Maton or Matz or any of them. It's like, well, wait a minute. We're going to get to the postseason, but what is our bullpen going to look like? Do we have enough? See, those guys have that kind of value too. The teams that are looking ahead, the super teams. Mozeliak clearly screwed up by not trading Helsley last season, because me and many others said there was always a chance of an injury, or there was always a chance that he would not come anything close to pitching the way he did in 2024. And the way he pitched in 2024 was amazing, and his value was sky high at that point. His 2025 season, Helsley's 2025 season, is really inferior compared to his dominant performance in 24. But he's still a good reliever, and he's one of those guys, as long as he's throwing 99, you're going to have some smart analytics department, or you can have a team like the Dodgers that says, he really just needs to start throwing a changeup. All our data shows that. If he could use the changeup more than he has, and our people will make him better, they'll reshape that pitch, then no one's going to be sitting on his fastball. See, all it takes is another organization to recognize a way to make Helsley better. And if they feel really good about that, they'll be willing to pay more, because they think they can turn him around, or at least get him better than what he's been in 2025. So there should be plenty of interest in Helsley, and Mozeliak, if the Cardinals falter here, would be absolutely daffy to keep him in what would be a lost cause effort. The Cardinals should make, we go to number 4. And I'm surprised that I didn't talk about this sooner. No one's talking about this. The Cardinals should make another reliever available who absolutely would have value. And when I give you some numbers here in a moment, you'll nod your head and you say, really? Okay, you're right, Bernie. Well, maybe I'm right. I think I am. Left-handed reliever JoJo Romero. Now, some people will start laughing because they remember the way he got blown up in April. Well, JoJo Romero, he's a joke. No, he's not actually. And I'll get to this in a second. But he's making $2.3 million this season, and he's going to enter his 3rd and final arbitration year in 2026, which means his salary coming off a good year will go even higher and higher. And then Romero will be eligible for free agency after the 26 seasons. Now, some people say, well, if he's so good, you ought to keep him for 2026. I don't disagree, but he's got added value now, because a team that trades for him, he can help them for the rest of the season and into the postseason, and then they know they would have him for a full 26 season. The value is up in that situation. I don't think enough people realize how effective Romero has been since Dusty Blake, the pitching coach, detected an early season delivery flaw when he was getting shelled all the time, and they spotted it, they corrected it. And here's the stat that is pretty remarkable, actually. In his 25 relief appearances since Dusty Blake found the mechanical flaw, right? In his 25 relief appearances since then, he's got a 0.44 ERA. He's got a 25% strikeout rate, which is even higher against left-handed hitters. And this lefty has not allowed any of his 13 inherited runners to score. And I mentioned he's got added trade value because he's really good right now, and he can really help a playoff contender or a team that is destined for the postseason, like the Dodgers or whomever. And then you also know you have him for a full 2026. That gets you a better trade. That gets you a better payoff if you're the Cardinals at the trade deadline. It should, as long as Mozeliak's smart enough to put Romero's name out there as being available, because Jojo Romero is not a rental. And I was reading the piece in The Athletic, and they're talking about, oh man, there is a shortage of left-handed relievers. Shortage. Teams are looking for lefty relievers, and some of the 2 or 3 names that get bandied about, they're not going to be traded by their teams. Aroldis Chapman from Boston is one example. So here you go. You got a shortage in the market of lefty relievers, and the Cardinals can trade 2 of them that would be of interest to other teams looking for lefty relief. Matz and Romero. That's why it's important to add Romero to this mix. It's just like so obvious, okay? So, and as I mentioned, Mozeliak he actually would be foolish to ignore trade proposals for just about anybody, Nootbaar and others, if teams are really ready to step up and make a hell of an offer. And I'm not saying they will, but I'm saying if that's the case. One more guy. If Mozeliak can find a taker for starting pitcher Eric Fetty and get a decent return that doesn't totally suck, right? For this pending free agent, if Mo could pull that off, I say that makes him the MLB Executive of the Year if he can do that. Probably not. One other guy, it's interesting. My friend John Denton, very respected beat writer, covers the Cardinals from MLB.com. John Denton continues to hawk this idea of there being widespread interest in Nolan Arenado, third baseman. I don't know. Not with this contract. Well, it's not just the contract. It's a combination of things. You got the contract that runs through 2027. He's having his career worst offensive season. That's a fact. It's not an opinion. I keep hearing, the RBI machine. Whoa. Just look at his batting average, on base percentage, slugging percentage, OPS plus, WRC plus, WOBA. See, I'm going with the alphabet soup here. Every time he gets a couple RBIs, the man's a machine. No, I love him, but no. He gives you a great glove, but with that glove comes a lot of salary owed to him. And you would also have him on your roster for his age 35 and age 36 season. And let me ask you a really, really logical question here. If the decline phase began for him, his age 32 season? Yeah, age 32 season there was a decline from 2022 into 2023, and the decline has continued to go in the bad direction. What do you think he's going to look like at age 35 and age 36? Do you really think teams are going to be rushing in to make an offer the Cardinals can't refuse for Nolan Arenado? Really? And he's got the no trade protection. And if he didn't have that, he would be a Houston Astro today. I'll tell you what, man, I'm not saying this to take shots at John Denton. He's really good. I like him a lot. I'm rooting for Denton to be right about this, but I'm a pragmatist. What can I say? If Mozeliak goes into the seller's market, it will end the fantasy of making the playoffs. And at that point, some other things will have to happen. The Cardinals should promote J.J. Wetherholt, their future franchise piece, as soon as the deadline passes. Well, where will he play? I don't give a damn because I don't see any superstars on this team. Get his bat in the lineup, period. All right? You worry about the other stuff later. Well, they can't do that. He's J.J. Wetherholt, and he's got more upside in his career than anybody on this team, except maybe Ivan Herrera. Don't overthink this. Get him up here. Starting pitcher Michael McGreevy finally will go into the rotation unless John Mozeliak decided to block him again. I'd be really surprised to see pitching prospects Quinn Matthews or Tekoa Roby up here because both have had some physical concerns this season. Matthews is over that, starting to pitch a little better, but Roby just went on this 7-day IL, and I never saw a reason given for that. It must not be too bad, but still, if these guys are healthy and on track and they have a good month of August or good 3 weeks or so, then I think a little major league experience in September would make sense because there's a good chance they'll be part of the team in 2026. So give them a little experience. I have one more segment to go here on the Bernie Show, and what I have to say may surprise you. Then again, some of you may agree with me because I know you're out there. I hear from you. I'll tell you about it next, but after I tell you fine gentlemen about the benefits of Blue Chew. And I am always happy to talk about Blue Chew because I know what Blue Chew has done for me. So why would I be like, oh, I don't know if I want to talk about it. Why not? Why not? Anything that happens along those lines with your performance, it's just like any other condition you would get help for. There's no stigma or you don't have to be embarrassed about anything, right? And Blue Chew is that big blue dose of power that's going to help you raise your game in those special, intimate times with your partner. So if you're slumping at the plate, you're struggling to come through the clutch, and you want some assistance to turn those little scratch hits into home runs, Blue Chew can help you with the long ball. With Blue Chew, the motto is simple: just chew it and do it. Blue Chew can help men of all ages, including dudes like me who are in their 60s. And I appreciate what Blue Chew has done for me. So I'm very, very happy to encourage you to check out and discover how Blue can increase your performance and your state of mind, probably, and certainly your pleasure. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for enhanced intimacy. So it's time for you to get back in the game with better equipment for more success. You'll get your first month of Blue Chew free. You're just a few clicks away, and it's easy to get going. You just sign up at bluechew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you are approved, you will receive your prescription within days. It's all done online, simple and private. And we've got a special deal for you. Try your first month of Blue Chew free when you use the promo code Bernie. Just pay $5 shipping. That's it, $5 shipping. The first month is free. Other than that, that's promo code Bernie. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the Bernie Show and giving me a chance to give encouragement to my fellow men. All right, now, thank you for that. Let's get back to the third and final segment of today's Bernie Show. And I want to read you something that my friend, the baseball analyst Joe Sheehan, wrote about the Cardinals just before the All-Star break in his newsletter, which you should subscribe to, joesheehan.com. This is all from Joe, and I quote, "For a team that was trying to get into sell mode over the winter and expected to be there this July, it's a bit confounding. The Cardinals," Joe Sheehan wrote, "have frayed their relationship with the fan base by missing the playoffs 2 straight seasons while cutting payroll. And they may not be able to afford selling at the deadline if the team's in the race," meaning there'll be a fan revolt. I think the fans have already revolted, but I understand Joe's point. Joe Sheehan went on to add, or I should say he went on to conclude, and I quote, "I honestly don't know which way they will go, and I'd guess that John Mozeliak and Chaim Bloom don't either. This is definitely a situation where the front office would almost rather see 2-8 coming out of the break than 5-5 coming out of the break." That last part is a unique perspective, but if you really think about it, it may resonate with you because it resonates with me, and I've been thinking along those lines anyway. Mozeliak can't afford to overrate his team. He can't afford to overrate their chances of getting in the playoffs or doing something in the playoffs, because even if the Cardinals get to the playoffs, they are almost certainly going to have a quick expiration date. The focus should be, when in doubt, if at all you're undecided, the focus should be on the future instead of lapsing into some unrealistic vision of this suddenly remarkable team that storms into the playoffs and goes on a stunning run to win the National League pennant. Now, maybe I'm wrong if I'm reading minds, because that's what I do. When you're watching this, I read some minds. I don't want to hear about the 2006 and 2011 Cardinals teams. They were underdogs. They went to the postseason 2006 with 83 wins and just didn't look good at all down the stretch. In fact, nearly squandered the Central Division title. 2011, the Cardinals were way out of the wild card race. There's only one wild card at the time. So bad that Chris Carpenter called a team meeting after they got swept at home, I think, by the Dodgers and said, look, we may be out of this thing. I don't think we are, but we may be out of this thing. The odds are against us. But you see all those fans out there? We're going to fight through this. We're not giving up. You got to respect the fans and respect this franchise. And so the rest is history, as they say, right? And thanks to the Atlanta Braves for choking down the stretch. That helped too. So anybody, Bernie, 2006, nobody thought they'd do anything there. 2011, Bernie, no one gave him a chance there. No one gave him a chance against Phillies in 2011. They lost a division to the Brewers, and nobody gave him a chance against the Brewers. Nobody gave him a chance after, they were 1 out away from losing Game 6 in the World Series. Okay. All right. Questions. Do you see Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina and Adam Wainwright on this team? Talking about the 2006 or the 2011 versions, even though Waino didn't pitch in 2011, but you get my point. Do you see the 2006 versions of Jim Edmonds or Scott Rowland on this team? Well, Bernie, Nolan Arenado. Oh, yeah, with apologies to Arenado, the 2006 Rowland drove in 95 runs, hit 22 homers, and he slugged .518. I can name other Cardinals from those 2006 and 2011 teams. That ain't this team, okay? Do you see the 2006 and 2011 versions of Chris Carpenter on the 2025 Cardinals? The guy that was absolute money in both 2006 and 2011 during the month of October. Do you think, and I'm not putting this next gentleman down at all, I love him, but do you think that Yoel Pozo is going to carry the 2025 Cardinals on a unbelievable David Freese type rampage through the postseason? Are you going to make it to the World Series with Sonny Gray, Matthew Liberatore, and Andre Palante as your top 3 starters? Good luck with that. See, Mozeliak cannot get dragged under by some emotional pull because it's his final season running the baseball operation, and it's one of those deals where he would like to finish on a positive note. But even if the Cardinals are technically still in the race, it doesn't mean they have a legitimate chance in the race, especially if other wildcard contenders have loaded up by acquiring impactful talent, real impact talent at the trade deadline. You know how Mozeliak finishes on a positive note? By setting this team up for a better 26 and beyond. The only way that Mozeliak can really screw this thing up is by daydreaming about some fairy tale and failing to stay attached to reality. He needs to sell. Listen, I care about the Cardinals' outlook for 2026 and 27 and beyond. There's some good talent on the way. This new baseball operation is already making a difference down in the player development area. And by changing their draft approach to pitchers. We saw that with Randy Flores doing that, working with the new group before this recent draft. This sounds harsh. It really does. But I don't say it to be like Mr. Fake Tough Guy. I just know what I think the priority should be. The best thing that can happen for the future of the St. Louis Cardinals baseball team is slipping, I hate to say it, but slipping into a larger deficit in this wild card race before July 31st. And that way, Mozeliak will, he'll slap himself in the face. Okay, I know what I got to do now. We'll see. It's going to be an interesting time. So like I said, buckle up. That's all for now. Please subscribe and hit the like button. I welcome all comments, whether they be nice or nasty. And I really, really appreciate all of you for supporting my work, even if I make you scream in anger about some stuff. We all have opinions. I want you to have a great weekend. And thanks to DraftKings Pick 6 for presenting the Bernie Show here on STL Sports Central. Thank you very much.